io tremo, io sento tutto inondarmi il seno di gelido sudor. Fugasi, a quale è la via? Chi me la dita? Oh Dio, che ascoltai, che m'avvenne. Oh Dio, che ascoltai. Ove son io? Ove son io? All'aria d'intorno lampeggia sua villa, ondeggia vacilla limpido terren. All'aria d'intorno lampeggia sua villa, ondeggia vacilla limpido terren. Ondeggia vacilla limpido terren. Qual notte profonda l'orror mi circonda, che larve funeste, che smanie son queste, che larve funeste, che smanie son queste, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen. Qual notte profonda d'orror mi circonda, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen. Qual notte profonda d'orror mi circonda, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen. All'aria d'intorno lampeggia sua villa, ondeggia vacilla limpido terren. All'aria d'intorno lampeggia sua villa, ondeggia vacilla limpido terren. Ondeggia vacilla limpido terren. Che larve funeste, che smanie son queste, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen. Che larve funeste, che smanie son queste, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen, mi sento nel sen. Qual notte profonda d'orror mi circonda, che larve funeste, che smanie son queste, che fiero spavento mi sento nel sen.
Hello everyone, welcome to my graduate recital project, Chaos, Chance, and Choice. My name is Garrett Schoonover, and I'm very glad that you could join me today. That first piece that you just heard was Franz Schubert's Il Traditor Deluso. It's actually a mad scene. How perfect to kick off a recital about chaos, chance, and choice in June 2020 than with a mad scene. He wrote it originally in 1827 for the Italian-based Luigi Lablacche, and it's depicting an individual who's experiencing sensory overload in the middle of a battle, and he flees into the night only to be terrorized by the creatures that he finds there. And originally I thought it might be a little bit hyperbolic to kick off this set, but given everything that has been going on lately, it actually feels rather appropriate. Before we get going too much further, in these uncertain and chaotic times, I just wanted to say that I hope you're all staying safe, I hope you're all staying healthy, and I hope you're all being kind to one another. We're going to be exploring a few works today by composers focusing on these three elements of chaos, choice, and chance, mostly exploring through the narrative lenses and varying perspectives surrounding conflict, from soldiers to deserters, as we just heard, refugees, and victims of wartime violence. And before we get going too much further, I also want to thank Vicki Kirsch and Kurt Erickson for their piano contributions to this program. And a special thank you to Vicki, because without her this wouldn't have happened. She not only was a sounding board for my ideas, pointed me in the direction of a good percentage of this music, including Kurt's, which you'll hear later in the program, and I wouldn't have been able to do this without her. So, Vicki, thank you so much. Moving forward, we're going to look at 3 Armenian pieces, the first of which is Dzayn Tsovak by Komitas. Komitas was easily one of the most notable figures in Armenian classical music. Not only did he write extensively for liturgical settings, but he's also credited with having saved Armenian folk music tradition. It is said that without him, that would have been lost during the Armenian genocide. Now, he was a survivor of the genocide, however, it did take a toll on him, and the man did suffer what we would now call an anxiety attack that left him hospitalized for the last 16 years of his life. Following that, we will have a piece by Kanachyan, Tsaygerg, which is a setting of a medieval text by Nahapet Kuchak. Kuchak was a medieval poet troubadour who never actually left his homeland, but he was highly regarded in his own time. He was a humanist, and he attempted to shed light on the injustices he witnessed around him through his music.
Dzayn Tur'vov Tsovak in Chulerumes Vog bakitz linel Chekamis Chargetsek ze Björk alike vet Harnek artasoks ais chererihet Ardzelem imanuk lakan Zurem chabchebum Neran shakarov Namish lalise Anush sirakan charanem inch kanash harhum siruner vorkan achkis tzitstevi zurem hamozum Patsik ezanit anush sirakan Urish vochvok cheuzum Yes, neraninch charanem
Our final Armenian art song is going to be Garun by Tchohadjian, which is a setting of a text by Mkirtik Peshiktashlyan. Now, the text predates the genocide, though the piece does not. Unfortunately, the Armenians were not strangers to being forced from their home. Historically, the land that Armenia sits on traded hands so many times between the Byzantine Empire, the Persian Empire, the Ottoman Empire. Frequently they suffered religious discrimination, especially in the later years as they traded hands between the Safavid Persian Empire and the Ottoman Turk Empire, both of which were under Islamic rule. And as they approached the 20th century, they started to feel pressure from the east, from Russia, until they were in fact absorbed by the Soviet Union in part. Now, I hope, being forced to leave one's homeland behind is an experience that none of us ever have to know firsthand. But this piece speaks to the bittersweet reactions of nostalgic reminders of home, and still acknowledging the natural beauty around them. It's a sad piece, but the music echoes a sentiment of hope and resilience.
Voinch anush yevinch pezov aravotut pechesovik Tzakans v'ragur guralov yev mazeron kusin papkik Baitz chesovik im hayrnyats G'na'an sir sertesibats Baitz chesovik im hayrnyats G'na'an sir sertesibats Terpetechnik nuvnayot Averakat terchin vera Terpet paktor getoknayot Nochinerun mejkesoga Karach en hayranyat no kachertan sertesibat no karach bats.
And before we move on to our next selection, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the curveball that we all got thrown with coronavirus in the past few months. As you've seen through the videos, I'm recording this from my home. Again, with piano tracks from Vicki Kirsch and Kurt Erickson. Now, the piano tracks that you heard in the Armenian songs were actually myself playing here. And this program originally contains a debut composition of my own, focusing on the work of an 11th century Persian astronomer poet named Omar Khayyam. Took a few quatrains from his Rubaiyat, which translates as quatrains. But it was a piece that focuses on finding truth and beauty in peace in your own time, but also living in the now. And it's a piece I look forward to sharing when we come back from coronavirus and have our lost concerts. Moving forward with the next piece on the program, we're actually going back to the first composer on the program. This next piece is Franz Schubert's Der Wanderer, a story about an individual who chooses to leave their home in the mountains, something I'm all too familiar with, being from Utah. They choose to leave their home in the mountains in pursuit of their happiness elsewhere. However, this individual doesn't necessarily find that leaving home always yields the results that they were looking for, and finds that they are frequently longing for home. But even though they're longing for home, they continue to travel and seek, thus the wanderer, finding out that the grass is greener on the other side.
Wo bist du, mein geliebtes Land, gesucht, geahnt und nie gekannt. Das Land, so hoffnungsgrün, das Land, wo meine Rosen blühen, wo meine Freunde wandelt gehen, wo meine Toten noch verstehen, das Land, das meine Sprache mir zurück. Dort, wo du nicht bist, dort ist das Glück.
Moving on to the last cycle on the program. Here Bullet is a work of poetry written by Iraq War veteran Brian Turner. Now, composer Kurt Erickson took 4 of these poems and set them to music. Here Bullet, Eulogy, A Soldier's Arabic, and Curfew. Now, to help me with these, I actually invited some of my veteran friends to read through the poetry and to speak a little bit as to why they chose to join the military and their reflections on that now. So without any further ado, please enjoy Here Bullet.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Hercules. I served 6 years in the Utah Army National Guard as a 35 mic human intelligence collector, French speaking. I joined in May of 2010, and as I think back to why, what was the reason I joined, I needed some direction. Seemed like the next big thing after high school. I thought the uniform looked cool. The idea of shooting guns was pretty cool. It just seemed like the right direction to go. In 6 years, I learned a lot. I met a lot of really good people who I've stayed friends with, some of them for all these years, and I'll be friends with them for the rest of my life. As I think back to, my reflections on joining, it was a good decision because it set me up for my civilian career, which I'm a police detective. And it's been very good for my family. I'm happy to be out, but I'm very happy that I made that decision. I'd make it 10 times in a row. It was definitely the right decision. Here, Bullet. If a body is what you want, then here is bone and gristle and flesh. Here is the clavicle snapped wish, the aorta's opened valves, the leap thought makes at the synaptic gap. Here is the adrenaline rush you crave, that inexorable flight, that insane puncture into heat and blood, and I dare you to finish what you started. Because here, Bullet, here is where I complete the word you bring hissing through the air. Here is where I moan the barrel's cold esophagus, triggering my tongue's explosives for the rifling I have inside me. Each twist of the round spun deeper, because here, Bullet, here is where the world ends, every time.
Here, Bullet, if a body is what you want, then here is bone and gristle and flesh. Here is the clavicle snapped wish, the aorta's open valves, the leap that makes at the synaptic gap. Here is the adrenaline rush you crave, that inexorable flight, that insane puncture into heat and blood. And I dare you to finish what you started, because because here, bullet, here is where I complete the word you'll bring, hissing through the air. Here is where I moan. The barrel's cold esophagus, triggering my tongue's explosives. For the rifling I have inside of me, each twist of the run spun deeper, because here, bullet, here is where the world ends. Every time. Here, bullet, 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 here.
Hello, my name is Kim Kasiewski. I served in the United States Army. I've been asked to answer the question why I joined, what my motivations for joining were. I think at the time I was looking to find something that felt as if I was giving back to society, as if I were going to leave a lasting impression on society. The job field that I was in did not feel fulfilling in that regard, and I wanted to join something bigger than me, make a difference. Looking back, I think that may have been somewhat naive. I was a little bit older when I came in than most. I was 27 when I joined. Most people join straight out of high school or in their early 20s. So I had a little bit more life experience under my belt going in. And despite having a few degrees before I went enlisted. My impression before I joined was that officers led from above and enlisted leaders led from within. And I wanted to be among the people, not over them. So I decided to go enlisted. Looking back, I think that my perspective of the politics of the DoD and the military have changed, but the one thing that has never changed, and the reason that I joined initially, was honestly to help people, and people were the best part of my experience. I may not always agree with the system, but I will always support the people, so long as they are trying to help and trying to do their best. I think that's how I justify the work I continue to do, is that as long as I'm helping people, I can justify it. Eulogy by Brian Turner. It happens on a Monday at 11:20 a.m. as tower guards eat sandwiches and seagulls drift by on the Tigris River. Prisoners tilt their heads to the west, though burlap sacks and duct tape blind them. The sound reverberates down concertina coils the way piano wire thrums when given slack. And it happens like this, on a blue day of sun, when Private Miller pulls the trigger to take brass and fire into his mouth. The sound lifts the birds up off the water. A mongoose pauses under the orange trees. And nothing can stop it now, no matter what blur of motion surrounds him, no matter what voices crackle over the radio in static confusion, because if only for this moment the earth is stilled. And Private Miller has found what low hush there is down in the eucalyptus shade there by the river.
As tower guards eat sandwiches and seagulls drift by on the Tigris River. Prisoners tilt their heads to the west. The burlap sacks and duct tape blind them. The sound reverberates down concertina chords, the way piano wire thrums when given slack. And it happens like this on a blue day of sun, when Private Miller pulls the trigger, when Private Miller pulls the trigger to take brass into his mouth. The sound lifts the birds above the water. A mongoose pauses under the orange trees, and nothing can stop it now, no matter what blur of motion surrounds him. No matter what voices crackle over the radio in static confusion, because only for this moment the earth is stilled. And Private Miller has found what low hush there is down in the eucalyptus shade, there by the river, there by the river, down in the eucalyptus shade, there by the river, there by the river. My name is Sergeant William Garrett Schoonover. I served 8 years with the Army National Guard in Utah and California between the 142nd MI Linguist Battalion and the 250th Expeditionary Intel Battalion. During that time I served as a human intelligence collector and Persian Farsi linguist. I already had my friends tell you why they chose to join the military and tell you what they think about that now. Why did I join? Well, I told the drill sergeants it was because I was bored, which wasn't entirely wrong. I was looking for a change of pace, change of direction. My college experience had some bumps in the road up to that point. I was kind of a turd. I was working a job that wasn't really going to provide any long-term growth. I needed that change of pace, and I had always considered the military as an option. A lot of people in my family were Army and Navy. I went with Army because I like being on dry land when I want and being in the water when I want. And also because my grandfathers were both Army. My one grandfather actually retired from the Army as a helicopter pilot. And
was always that family aspect to it. There was always the intrigue aspect to it. I'm not gonna lie, there was a recruiting ad for the Army National Guard that I heard when I was like 15, and it said, if your life was a book, would anybody want to read it? I still remember that to this day. So the recruiting worked. But looking back on it now, I'm glad that I made the choice to go in. It was the right choice for me at the right time in my life. It put me on a trajectory to learn a new language, learn a new skill set, meet tons of people from all kinds of different backgrounds, both from within this country and outside of this country. Provided a lot of perspective that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So, all in all, it is the military, and it is a big, slow machine, and it has its flaws like any man-made institution. But I met some incredible people, made lifelong friends, and I get to share an experience with less than 1% of the population. People who are in. You can spot other people who are in. It's always that little unspoken camaraderie. So, am I glad that I'm out now? Sure. I think, after losing my leg, staying in the military didn't quite make sense anymore, but, it's an experience I will always look back on and remember more fondly than not.
The word for love, Habib, is written from right to left, starting where we would end it, and ending where we might begin. Start a war, another might take as a beginning, or as an echo of history recited again. Speak the word for death, Mott, and you will hear the cursives of the wind. Driven into the veil of the unknown. From right to left, starting where we would end it and ending where we might begin. Where we would end a war, another might take as a beginning, or as an echo of history recited again. Speak the word for death, Mott, and you will hear the cursives of the wind driven into the veil of the unknown. This is a language made of blood. It is made of sand and
It is made
time.
of sand and
To be
time.
spoken, it must be earned. At dusk, bats fly out by the hundreds. Water snakes glide in the ponding basins. Behind the rubbled palaces, the mosques call their faithful in, welcoming the moonlight as prayer. Today, policemen sunbathed on traffic islands. And children helped their mothers string clothes to the line. A slight breeze filling them with heat. There were no bombs, no panic in the streets. Sergeant Gutierrez didn't comfort an injured man who cupped pieces of his friend's brain in his hands. Instead today, white birds roll
that concludes today's program. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I let you go, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge a few people who were very much instrumental in getting me to this point. As many of you may know, my time at UCLA was a little bit atypical of what most people go through in their graduate years. I took a little bit of extra time getting here too, but there were some people who never gave up on me and never let me give up on myself, and I really appreciate it. So let's kick it off. First on the list, Michael Dean, my voice teacher at UCLA. You probably already know you're known as the dad of the department, but what most people probably don't know is that you were the first person who showed up in the hospital after my wreck, and that you stayed with me until my parents arrived, and even after. You continue to help. And on top of that, helping me with all of this, I owe you a great deal of thanks that I don't think I'll ever be able to repay you for everything that you've done for me, so thank you. Next on the list, I'd like to thank Peter Kazaris and Rakefet Hawk from our opera department. They, in tandem, know just the right ways to get people out of their comfort boxes, and I came to UCLA with a very well-developed box that I liked to stay in. And thank you to Peter and Rakefet for pushing me outside of my comfort zone and helping me to grow. Next, I'd like to thank Dr. James Bass in the UCLA Choral Department. Man, talk about opportunities that I didn't think I was going to get to have when I came to UCLA. So, thank you. And I'd also like to thank Moses Pagosian. I don't think I mentioned him earlier when I was talking about the Armenian music. Moses Pagosian is the point man, we'll say, for the VEM quartet at UCLA, and he was putting all of the Armenian performances together and was always in my corner, always when I was getting down on myself, being like, you sound great, you sound like you speak the language, which again, I don't. So thank you, Moses, for everything. Beyond that, I'd like to extend a thank you out to everyone in the UCLA vocal family. I've enjoyed making music with all of you. I truly have, and I look forward to the next time that we get to make music together. Be well.